Church, how are we doing this morning? All right, perfect. I like that. All right, so for today, you remember last month we talked about the introduction to our nutrition. But for today, we're going to be talking about weight management because I think that's very important, especially when we talk about nutrition, in terms of incorporating that together when we talk about the weight management. Let's see. All right, perfect. So now when we talk about weight management, we all understand the importance of our healthy weight. Let me try to see. All right. So we all understand the importance of healthy weight. And when we talk about fat storage, there are some area whereby we don't want too much fat. Because now when those fats are closer to major organs, then that can lead to some of those comorbidity, those cardiovascular disease in terms of diabetes. And that's when we talk about the viscerous fat, which is the viscerous fat is just the fat around the belly area. Then that can lead to that comorbidity that we talk about. So now when we talk about the introduction to our weight management, I'm trying to get my clicker to work. All right. So now when we talk about weight management, so for today I'm going to be talking about the importance of weight management, talking about some of the factors that can cause weight gain, as well as talking about how you can improve your overall health by maintaining an healthy weight. So in order to begin, when we talk about weight management, one of the main factors that cause weight gain is what we call the food or eating complacency. Because especially these days, it's very easy to increase calories intake just like that because there's fast food everywhere. And I was reading about a research, I think last week. And the research was talking about people that go to a movie, that go and watch movie. And when we talk about some action movie, especially when there's popcorn, chance of increasing those calories consumption increases just because it's very comfortable to just nice and eat those popcorn as you go. So now when we talk about complacency, this can be intentional or all intentional. Just about whereby you don't really know you are consuming more calories, and that can be due to increased portion size. That can be due to in terms of the type of food that we consume, especially since there's a lot of dense calories food, especially when we talk about those processed and ultra processed food. So now when we talk about complacency, this is just about the unaware of eating habit over time, which can lead to you slowly gaining weight. And at some specific point, because it's very easy when you start gaining weight, maybe from 1 pound to 2 pounds, then before you know it, you might be up by 20 or 30 pounds. And there are some factors that can also increase somebody's chance to be a little bit complacent when it comes to eating. That can be emotional. Maybe somebody lose a family member, and that's one of the main things they nice and fall on when it comes to comforting themselves, when it comes to food consumption. So it's just very nice and good to just nice and understand in terms of how easy it is to increase calories consumption. And one of the best way in order to combat this specific issue of food or eating complacency is mindfulness. Because when you are mindful of your food consumption, when you are mindful like, oh, okay, all right, think I'm gaining some weight right now. Maybe it's time for me to just nice and reduce how much calories. And most often we always think about calories in equals calories out. But if you put junk calories in, that does not mean calories out because it's going to leave some junk inside your body. That's why it's very important to nice and understand the type of food that we are consuming. Because there are several factors that can increase our food complacency. We have the individual, which is ourselves. Then we have the relationship to food, because sometimes we do love a specific type of food based on the taste. And that's what food industry always do. That's why they do a lot of taste testing, because they're trying to create a sense of craving. So now when you have that craving, then you're like, you know what? I can't do without this specific item. And that's one of the main things whereby, because if there's no craving in a specific food, then the food industry is not going to make money. So that's why as an individual, that's why the discipline and mindfulness is very important. So talking about community as well as the society, which is when we talk about the food industry, because everything when it comes to food industry is all about lobbying. That's everything in regards to that. All about trying to see. Because, let me take it back. Because I was also reading an article which was published by the FDA in terms of imploring food industry to decrease how much sodium they're putting in all those processed food. So if we're not mindful or having those knowledge, then what are we going to do? We're going to continue to eat those processed food which contain high sodium. Then when there's high sodium, that's when it's going to continue to lead to some of those comorbidity. So now let's take it down to a basic level. So when we talk about weight gain, we're talking about fat cell. So as we continue to grow, we increase the number of fat cells. So then what happens when we continue to overconsume calories? Then we increase the size of our fat cell. Then over time, the fat cell sizes can only get to a specific sizes before they start replicating, which is why it's very easy for an individual who went through a dramatic weight loss for them to gain that weight back very easily. Because what they only need to do is just fill up those fat cells, even though they already have the several replica of those fat cells. So now when we understand this specific component of how fat cell work, because when you lose weight, you don't lose the number of fat cell. You never lose it. You only lose the size. You only decrease the size of those fat cells. So now when we talk about healthy eating habit or weight management, number one thing is balanced diet. I know we talked about cholesterol previously, and there are several factors that increase our cholesterol level. That's when we talk about embarking more on lean protein, because when we consume too much red meat, then that can increase our cholesterol level. And when there is increase in cholesterol level, that can also increase some of those comorbidity disease, cancer, cardiovascular disease over time. So then talking about whole grains, trying to focus more on whole grains rather than refined grains or white bread, if we want to take it down to food, to carbs. So then we talk about increasing fruit and vegetable, but we also got to be careful with fruit and vegetable, especially when we talk about fruit. With somebody who is diabetic, you have to make sure you also pay attention to the type of fruit you are selecting. For example, like dates. Dates contain a high level of sugar. So now, if I'm diabetic and I'm consuming dates, then I got to make sure I'm nice and in terms of watchful when it comes to that. So then also focusing on healthy fat. That's when we're talking about those are plant-based fat like avocado. Then mindful eating, that's one of the main things to combat those complacency. Portion sizes, I think that's key right there. I think some of the factors that can increase portion size can be the type of plate you use. So if you decrease your plate size, maybe that can also decrease your portion sizes. But then what we do, we overload it as well too. So you can see everything is interrelated in terms of portion sizes, complacency, then mindfulness, which is the overall ways how to combat in terms of weight gain and managing those weight. So now when we talk about cravings, there are several things there are several factors that increase our cravings. We talk about something like salty items. Some people enjoy that so much. I think I was counseling a patient a while ago. Then we're talking about reducing salt. Then it was like, oh, it doesn't affect me now. Why should I worry about it? And that's one of the main things we always tell ourselves. Like, oh, I feel good. Why should I worry about it now? But let's think about smoking. Smoking just don't affect people right away. It's just a combination over time. That's why it's very important to be nice and open-minded. Especially that's what I talked about when we started this program, open-minded, and be able to explore different type of food item. Then sugar, I think that's like the biggest one. From soda, from a lot of stuff. Then we talk about fat or savory type of taste, which is a combination of either salt, sugar, just nice and combine them to nice and create that balance in there. So now when we talk about factors that increase weight gain, we're talking about poor eating diet, especially overconsumption of those in terms of fast food, because we always got to think about that. So what I want you to ask yourself, what percentage of your daily calories consumption are what you cook, and what percentage are what you get outside, like those fast food? So that's what you got to think about, because most of them you don't really know what they put in there. But when you cook, you understand what you're putting in those food items. But you also got to make sure you focus on portion sizes as well. That's very important. Then alcohol consumption, which are just like empty calories that sometimes we put into our body. I think I mentioned that before. For every gram of alcohol is equivalent to about 7 calories. So now, how many cups of alcohol are you drinking? How many glasses? So you're drinking a lot. So maybe some people already drink their calories, and they're going to be saying, oh, I don't really eat that much. And they're like, oh, I'm not losing weight. But everything is all about the alcohol consumption. Then we talk about dehydration. How does dehydration work? Sometimes when we are dehydrated, we don't really know if we are dehydrated or if we are hungry. So we can't really tell the difference. So then what do? We start eating instead of staying hydrated. So then we talk about aging, especially for women, especially as they get to the menopause stage. Chances of weight gain increases. Then when that increases, then we're talking about those osteoporosis also increases. That's why it's very important to nice and focus on the weight, calories in terms of our diet, balanced diet, as well as exercise. Because exercise is one of the main ways you can combat osteoporosis. When we talk about weight gain leads to several comorbidities, as I mentioned, and pain is one of it. Because when you overload those joints, then what happens? That creates pain. So now I'm going to start suffering from a specific disease. Now I'm going to start taking pain medicine, and it's going to leave some lingering effect into our body. Then we have people with hypothyroidism. Also, chances of weight gain also increases due to that specific hormone imbalance. So one of the main ways is just nice and be watchful when it comes to diet, and also incorporate exercise to that. So this is just talking about the weight management intervention, talking about lifestyle, talking about medication, as well as weight loss surgery. But when we talk about medication as well as weight loss surgery, just those two alone cannot be sustainable. So you have to incorporate lifestyle to it. For example, when we talk about weight loss medication, maybe we're talking about some of those famous ones, Ozempic. One of the main mechanisms used is what we call the GLP, glucagon lipoprotein, which is being secreted inside the small intestine. So then send a signal to your brain of a sign of what? Satiety, sign of fullness. So then from there you eat less. So if I'm eating less but I'm consuming bad diet, guess what? Then I'm not going to see that result. And even if I get those weight loss surgery, that gastric sleeve bypass, over time, in the beginning, you might not have the appetite to eat. But then over time, guess what? The appetite is going to come. But now if I'm not really aware of the type of food I'm eating, guess what? It's going to just go back to where you are before. That's why it's very important. If I'm on medication or I just have those weight loss surgery, I have to combine the lifestyle in order for it to be effective and for it to be for it to last for a long period of time. So just overall, when we talk about healthy weight, we talk about physical activity, healthy eating, and also just about behavioral modification, which sometimes stress can also increase your weight gain. Because sometimes if I'm stressful, I'm not getting adequate sleep, guess what? I'm going to start eating. I'm going to start eating because I'm going to feel hungry. And that's one of the main things in order to find an healthy way in order to what? Manage the stress. So then in summary, so when it comes to healthy weight, taking the first step means assessing where you are right now. So when you assess, that's when you identify the problem. If the problem is, oh, I consume fast food, I eat a lot of red meat, I do a lot of salt, then what do we do from there? We make a plan. Then when we make a plan, then that leads to the second summary, small and sustainable step. It doesn't have to be a dramatic changes. Just small steps over time can lead to a dramatic or a significant progress over time. So the main takeaway when it comes to weight management, just think about where you are. Think about what doctor already told you. Because sometimes it's very easy for doctor to, when you go in there and they're like, oh, you're pre-diabetes, and one thing they tell you is like, make sure you focus on nutrition and make sure you focus on weight. How does that really tell you what to do? because you are like, oh, that's what I've been doing before. If I know, I would have changed that. And this is why we bring you this information, so you can nice and just pick one thing from each of our presentation and just nice and develop a plan of action so you can nice and benefit over time. Thank you.